if you keep saying you want to die, go ahead and die, you know. It make our life so much more easier. It's like, I do want her to live the best life, but right now she knowing that she can't, it hits me very hard.
19. Last one. 20. Yay. High five.
Hi, my name is Josh. I'm 47 years and I am a caregiver of my mom for 3 years. She has been having dementia since 2022. Her mental health has been declining, and I just want to share my bits of what it's like to be a caregiver and want to tell others that you're not going through this alone. My mom was, before, she was a very active woman. Basically, she's a very opinionated, she's very confident as well. In fact, as what described by my dad, or what I know of her, she was one of the most beautiful women I've ever met. And also at the same time, she's very particular about health, which is why when she's getting into this whole health and nutrition stuff, I kind of take after her. And she's very, very independent, often does her own thing, she looks after people, always putting others before herself. When I noticed something different about her was back in 2022, which is approximately 3 years ago. And back then, it was during around the end of COVID era. So I started to notice a bit of a declination of her physical health. She started to experience like vertigo, mood swings. And also one time when she was so dizzy, her vertigo was overwhelming her. She actually fell down, and I wasn't at home. So I realized that when I came back home, she was actually down, falling on the floor with the, bamboos and stuff like that. And I realized that she has peed on the floor. And that comes to a shock to me, because I did not realize that how did it come to that. And I've often realized in my context, as a normal person, if you fall down, you would just pick yourself up. But she's been there for God knows how long. And I wasn't even aware. When I came back, I had to help her out and realized that, that was when I started to discover that something was off. It started to hit me gradually when her mentally cognitive health started to decline. And that was when I started to realize that my role as a son has somehow slowly transitioned into that of a caregiver.
Okay, one more step. Ready, ah? Slowly, you're almost there, You're almost there. Okay, 1, 2, 1.
Stand up.
Stand up.
She's not.
I have to help her walk. Her movements have started to immobilize, and I have to literally be, she depends on a walker at first, and realized that she couldn't get out of the bed, and then I slowly have to help her out. I realized that her bowel movement and her urinary tract is not easily controlled, and she started to make a mess of herself. And that was when I have to start to buy diapers for her. And it hits me really hard, understanding that as a role of a son, it's now I'm playing the role of a parent. There's often these struggles that I'm facing, thinking that whether I'm doing enough as a son. Also, the very fact that witnessing her decline of her mental health has reducing from the woman I once knew, the mother I once loved, to become someone who doesn't remember a lot of things, and at the same time it becomes a person whereby I have to look after her, and it's almost like looking after a child, and that really hits me very hard. Emotionally wise, it felt very grating, only because when it started to become a main issue, there's often times where she would make noises in the middle of the night, and when she starts screaming, the whole entire house wakes up, thinking like what's going on with her. So all this little manic panic in between episodes somehow will disrupt our sleep. And oftentimes when I wake up, I have to realize that, she's no longer the mother I knew, but at the same time also I have to help her get out of bed, along with my helper. At the same time, we also take turns, we'll bring her to the daycare center.
Ready, ah?
There were moments sometimes where I feel, whether it is right if she were to go away soon. I know it's very, very difficult to plan this because, you know, we only have one mom. And obviously you want your mom to live the best life. And seeing how the situation of her life is right now, it's like, I do want her to live the best life, but right now she knowing that she can't, it hits me very hard. And sometimes it's difficult because there are many times, you know, when she's in her right state of mind, she will often tell me that she wants to die. She felt that she is a burden to the family. There is no sense of life given whereby if you're in this state, right, what's the point of living? And that really hits me hard because it often brings to my thought, thinking that if I am old like her one day, I wouldn't want to live either. There are also frustrating moments where my family members also will sometimes tell her, say that, you know, if you keep saying you want to die, go ahead and die, you know. It makes our life so much more easier. Well, it's so easy to say that out in the fit of emotions, but never realize that sometimes by saying that, right, there's often a guilt, you know, trip, that thinking that, oh, are we right to say this, you know? Are we saying this out of context of whether are we coming from a place of just being selfish, or the very fact that we just want the best for our family member? On the contrary, caregiving has somehow improved my relationship with my dad and siblings, particularly my sister, only because, you know, she's married out of the house, and obviously she's taking care of the portion of a financial aspect. But at the same time, she used to have a very she doesn't really have a good relationship with my mom. She's often quarreling with my mom all the time. So they often have yelling matches back and forth. There's always times whereby their personalities will clash so bad. But right now, after the condition, right, I can see that she is softening up and she's a lot closer to my mom. And with my dad, it's like, you know, I started to see him that he's less impatient and he's a lot more understanding. And he started to express more love towards my mom whenever he comes back home. Oftentimes whereby they used to have like every typical, you know, Chinese family, right? There's arguments at home. But in this case, you know, given my mom's condition, I think, you know, his relationship or his attitude towards my mom has changed a lot. And I think I see some significant improvement. And I think, you know, because of this, right, the functionality of our household is a lot peaceful. It's no longer as dysfunctional as it was. Whenever I feel very down or I feel very out, sometimes I need some time to switch off by just going to the gym. Whether it's just like lifting weights or just like running or swimming, it really helps me to clear my mind. Other than that, I also take the channel of, you know, taking time off by going on vacation because I feel that it's very, very healthy. It's necessary to clear your mental state of mind so that it helps you to kind of like recharge your mental capacity so that you can go back to being a caregiver again. Initially, I felt very alone in this journey. Somehow, along the way, I managed to find support groups through my small group of friends who actually have a support group for parents with dementia. Through this situation, it really helps me to find support that I needed to understand that I'm actually not alone. But initially, when the first few months of her physical and mental deterioration, I felt very alone because I felt like no one could understand me.
Say hello to them. Wave hello.
From time to time, there are moments whereby people would think that, oh, how do you hold it so well together? Often when during social settings or social outings, they always keep saying that I'm very jovial, I'm very, you know, outgoing and stuff, but deep down they don't actually see what's going on. So the internal struggles, and sometimes as much as I try to hold it in, there are moments sometimes I do often break whereby they will start to express concerns. So they can never fully understand the situation I'm going through. I felt carrying through the end was really one of the very interesting causes when it first come upon. When I saw through it, I felt that it might be helpful to understand the context of I'm not the only one that's going through this. To be able to find the support needed and also maybe perhaps to gain some feedback and to gain some tips on how to maintain my emotional resilience and also at the same time to understand what is it like that I can able to depend on some support helps. Self-care is very, very important. One thing I realized that, in order to build emotional resilience, right, it's a lot to do with self-care, which is what practically I'm doing right now. And this course has impacted me even further in such a way that through this course, I've learned to able to put myself first, not just my mom's, but at the same time, I got to learn to keep that balance, which I did not have previously. And this actually really helps me to keep that balance of able to be assertive, at the same time also to communicate better with my family members so that I do not take the burden alone. And I highly encourage anyone whose parents who are going through either like dementia, terminal illness, or even people dying of cancer, understanding this, right, this is so important, especially mental health is so important, not because of the person that we're looking after, but at the same time, our own mental health as well. I think deep down inside, figuring out, she will always keep saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And every time when she's experiencing some pain on her legs, she'll start screaming, and I'll go and massage her legs. And then when she started to feel relief, and she'll start to say thank you, And then there are many times whereby she will express her gratitude through kisses. And I think that felt heartwarming. And yeah, oftentimes when she used to be the one that I turn to whenever I'm going through some down times. She was a so-called emotional source of support. But now there's no longer this emotional support. It felt, there was a bit of an emptiness that I feel. And that's the part that I often struggle with. But deep down, I want her to know that I'm always here for her no matter what. Don't measure yourself by perfection. Understanding your limitation, understanding of where your expectations go. When you are going through such tough moments, knowing that there are people out there are going through exactly what you're going through. Do not go through this alone. Seek the support that you need. Ultimately, you will find the resources and the emotional support that you need, and that's very, very important.
Imagine a caregiver having taken care of the loved ones 24/7. It's really witnessing the patient being in pain and then their health deteriorating over time. It can be very painful to see someone just wither off over time. They will probably have to wake up at the middle of the night to bring the loved ones to the toilet. If the loved one is bedridden, for example, they have to bring the loved one to the hospitals, and sometimes it can be 1 week, multiple times to different specialists. So physical exhaustion. As a first-time caregivers, especially, is navigating the healthcare system. Because if they are very new into this so-called caregiving and the healthcare taking care, going to the hospital, hearing from the doctors the many terminologies, medical terminologies that they use, they are a bit lost, And then knowing or not knowing whether they can use their CPF, MediSave, etc. to pay for the bills. So all these are actually a huge challenge for the caregivers, and they have really had to start from scratch or quickly find the resources to get their answers. It's very common for caregivers to feel guilty. I just want to emphasize the fact to the caregivers is that they are humans as well. As humans, we all have feelings, we have emotions, and they don't have to feel guilty so long as they know that they have done what they could within their means. There will always be things that they are not able to attend to, and that's perfectly fine, So to really practice self-compassion, so that's very important for caregivers. They have to acknowledge their own feelings. They have to first know that they are, like what I mentioned earlier, they are humans too, okay? And they do need rest, and they do need help if they have to. Communication is very crucial, and it's very important. It's where we get to know what each other is thinking or the wants and the desires, the values. So how can we make difficult conversations a little bit more manageable or a little easier? I would say that we'll start early. Okay, we don't have to wait till somebody is sick. Then we talk about all these difficult conversations like how do you want to be cared for when you are sick, or how do you want your funeral arrangements to be like, that kind of things. And but we also have to do it with care and sensitivity. So finding the right time, whether the person is ready. The person means the patient themselves and the caregivers. Sometimes the caregivers are ready, but patients are not. Or it can be the other way around. So we have to find the right time where both parties are ready for that. Okay. Sometimes it might not be the caregivers, it might be somebody else in the family. But importantly is finding the right time. You can expect to learn things like how do you take care of your loved ones in the emotional aspect, and then you also learn how to take care of yourself as a caregiver, understanding your burnout, what are the signs to look out for, how do you know that you're tired, how do you know that you need a rest, how do you build your own mental resilience. I think it's definitely beneficial to anybody, not just for caregivers, but for many of those who are not doing the caregiving duties. I think that this is something that we can always learn and prepare ourselves, because when illness strikes, we never know when it will be.